Now, NATO 2024 comes to a close with Sir Keir Starmer completing his first trip as PM on the world stage.
Well, the Prime Minister has confirmed the UK's £3 billion a year military aid for Kyiv will continue and said the visit was an opportunity to recommit to NATO and the special relationship with the United States.
Well, our political editor Christopher Hope was in Washington and sent this report.
Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, fresh from his general election victory last Friday, is here in Washington, D.C. for the 75th anniversary meeting of the NATO defence organisation. Joe Biden, the US Democratic President, he's chairing it. He met with Sir Keir Starmer yesterday on stage at the NATO summit, and the pair met last night for dinner at the White House and a meeting in the Oval Office, a fireside chat in the Oval Office. No question, Sir Keir Starmer is the guy to meet. We saw a very warm meeting between the French President Emmanuel Macron, who may see Sir Keir Starmer as an antidote to populism sweeping the continent. But still there's pressure on Sir Keir Starmer. He won't say when the UK will spend £1 billion more on defence, when we might meet that target of hitting 2.5% of our GDP spent on defence, the billions more required by Ukraine, our key ally. He did meet with President Zelensky, the Ukraine leader, yesterday in Washington. That was a warm meeting. We saw David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, and John Healey, the Defence Secretary, both there meeting with him. But otherwise, key issues remain, notably our prisons. Overnight, Sir Keir Starmer has said they will announce very shortly plans to release criminals early, maybe after serving as little as 40% of their terms, or their jail terms. He, as a former chief prosecutor, knows there's real problems in the prisons and they need to take action. He'll try and make sure that only the least dangerous are released early, but there's pressure on Sir Keir Starmer. If any of those prisoners are released early commit further crimes, then the heat's back on him. He's got to get planning new prisons quickly. He's blaming the Tory party for now, but that can't go on forever. Christopher Hope, Washington, D.C.
Well, let's talk to former Labour Adviser Stella Tsantekidou, who joins us now. Good to see you this morning, Stella.
Good morning.
I mean, what do you make of what we're hearing from the Prime Minister on this visit? I mean, when it comes to key elements of defence spending, for example, I mean, it's great. We need to get to that 2.5%. Everyone's saying it, but we're still not getting a date from him. He's still leaving it hanging in the air somewhat.
So what Keir Starmer has said is that next week he will set out a one-year review of the UK's defence capacity, which is a very reasonable step to take, because you would expect any minister who commits more taxpayer money to be able to justify where exactly that money is going and how it is best used. There is a number of priorities. Of course, we know that the government purse is under a lot of pressure, so you would expect him to take a step like that. And it's been quite a long time since the last time the UK did a defence spending review. And currently we're at 2.3%, which is above the 2% NATO target, and 2/3 of NATO countries do not reach that defence spending target. So it's not like the UK has not been committed enough until now. Now, I think that it is something that we would expect from Keir Starmer at this point, but he did have a very, very good week apart from that, because obviously he showed up to the NATO summit just having been completely victorious, and this is why leaders like Macron and Biden would have wanted to be seen, to speak to him, and now he's suddenly the important one, whereas usually it is the US president.
Make of seeing Sir Keir Starmer as a statesman on the world stage for the very first time. We've got some views in on gbnews.com/you'll saying they thought he looked quite nervous, that he was slow to shake President Biden's hand, for example. But then when you look at him with President Zelensky of Ukraine, there's a big embrace there, isn't he? He looks very natural. So what were your takes?
I thought he looked to be having a very good week. There were all of these photos of Keir Starmer in the presidential private jet, in the private jet, with all of the journalists following him. Everyone really, really keen to speak to him. Joe Biden said that the UK is the best of allies. He even made a joke about England's soccer victory over the Netherlands being because of the Prime Minister. I think that for the first time, the UK is actually looking a lot more empowered on the international stage because it has a very united, stable liberal democracy at the moment, which is a lot more than a lot of the other European countries can say. It's more than Germany or France can say. It's more than the US can say. Remember, we're not yet sure who's going to be the next president in the US. Zelensky has said that he doesn't trust that Donald Trump, if he gets elected, he will support Ukraine in the way that Ukraine needs to be supported right now. And Keir Starmer has made it extremely clear that the change of prime minister doesn't mean that there is going to be a change of government policy. So overall, a good week. Now, I'm not sure he looks nervous to me, but I think this is more the same image that we have seen from Keir Starmer throughout the campaign, which is that he's just a very serious, professional person.
Stella Tsantekidou, appreciate your take on that. Thanks very much indeed.